There we go. Welcome to Coffee with Marcus and Mark, the number one stock market show on Spotify and one of the most popular market updates on YouTube. Today is Tuesday, August 13th. Stocks rally after good PPI data, a CEO shakeup sends Starbucks higher, Home Depot concerned over weakening sales. NVDA rallies again. More inflation data to come. And the S&P 500 earnings have been strong, but there is a concern. Plus, we'll take a look at our open Wheel and WTF trade. So let's go ahead and get started. If this is your first time here, my name is Mark Hodge. I'm head coach at Rockwell Trading, and today it is Coffee with Mark. We're going to take a look at what's going on in the markets, and let me dive right in, share my screen. Let's look at the S&P 500, and what a day and what a difference a week makes. After printing lows that we haven't had in quite a while last Monday, stocks have bounced right back, and today the S&P 500 up 1%. The NASDAQ up 1.6%, leading the way. The Dow up 0.4%, a little bit slower and behind the S&P 500 and tech stocks, but a strong day overall after a positive start. And let's go ahead and look at futures here and go to a 5-minute chart so we could see that pre-market activity. And there we go. Here's the E-mini S&P 500. We see overnight it was a little bit choppy to kick the overnight session off. And during Asian equity trading, there really wasn't a whole lot going on. And then a bit of a rally into the European session, chopping around and then making overnight lows. Pretty decent drop here. And then we saw things turn. There was a rally ahead of today's PPI report, inflation data that traders have been waiting for. And you see that the initial reaction positive, making new overnight highs, nice reaction, and then a little bit of a sideways move into the open. But we were able to start the session higher with a gap higher, chopping around just a little bit, but right now trading at session highs. So nice reaction there to the data. We see that the S&P 500 right now at 5,400, which takes us right back to the low that we had 2 Thursdays ago when we started to see things chop around just a little bit, get a bit nasty before that fall on Friday, and then the overnight rout and horrible start that we had last Monday. But let's see why the markets are reacting positively. And let's go over to PowerX Optimizer and look at the economic calendar. And this morning, we see core PPI data. Core PPI coming in flat. The expectation was that there would be a 0.2% increase. That was the forecast. In the previous reading, we had a 0.3% increase. That was a bit of a surprise. PPI data increasing by 0.1%, and the expectation was 0.2%. So inflation data cooler than expected, and this just helping out the campaign for the Fed and a potential rate cuts taking place in September. But we're not done with inflation data yet. We see that tomorrow, core CPI data being released. This is typically the more significant out of the two here. What's going on with the consumer? And we'll see an hour before U.S. markets open tomorrow exactly what that data shows. While we're here, Thursday holds a little more significance than normal. We do have unemployment claims, which have been in the spotlight. Investors really keeping a close eye on the employment picture, what's going on with jobs. And so that weekly report taking on a little more significance, but the same goes for retail sales. So retail sales, core retail sales, red flag report. This is on Thursday, an hour before U.S. markets open. And this is where, because of the discussion around a weakening jobs market and potentially the U.S. economy struggling or being slower than expected. Will we have a soft landing? Are we already in a recession? Are we going to see a bigger recession? That's where some investors are really concerned about retail sales, and seeing exactly what consumers are doing would be something of significance this week. So, uh, still some major reports that could move the market, but at least for today, nice move higher and markets pushing higher. The S&P up over 1%, the Nasdaq now up 1.7%. Now, a few market movers. We have to look at Starbucks. So, Starbucks soaring after Chipotle CEO announces the new Starbucks CPO and CEO, and investors liking this news. I mean, here we see that Chipotle stock is seeing its worst drop in 7 years as the CEO of Chipotle exits. So this switch up, sending Chipotle CEO over to Starbucks. Starbucks traders thinking that is great for the company. Starbucks up 22% on this news. Starbucks struggling a little bit after reporting negative earnings 2 quarters ago. A big drop there. This was huge, down 16% on that earnings gap, then chopping around. A little bit of a positive reaction on the latest earnings results, but still negative and negative revenue. So we had this new range, but just exploding to the upside on that announcement. And we could take a look at CMG, Chipotle, because CMG, Chipotle investors not happy with this announcement, and CMG down 11%. So I guess you could say that CEOs matter, at least when it comes to burritos and coffee. Well, I guess they matter in other businesses as well. Well, let's take a look at another mover here and take a look at Home Depot. Actually, Home Depot is starting the session negative, down pre-market after some earnings news. On the earnings per share, the top and bottom numbers, right? The earnings per share and revenue, actually a beat. So some decent numbers here. However, Home Depot says that they expect sales to weaken. They cut their full year guidance, saying that they expect that sales could fall 3 to 4%. Now, originally, earlier this year, sales were expected to drop a little bit, but they were looking at about 1%. So those forecasts could be a sign of things to come with the economy. And early on, investors not quite happy with that outlook, but it seems like they've shaken that off because now Home Depot really just trading right where it was at the close yesterday. We have to look at the heat map here. Let me go over here. We're looking at the S&P 500, mostly green throughout the S&P 500, although energy taking a hit today. So energy stocks in the red. Here we see the energy sector not doing too hot, down 1 to 2% mostly. And we do see that crude oil down 1.7% for the session. So after having 4 consecutive up days in crude oil, rallying off 73, getting up to $80 a barrel, today's pullback of 1.7%, putting a little pressure on energy and gas companies. Really the only sector that's in the red. Now, sectors in the green, technology is leading the way again, and that's why the Nasdaq's up so much and leading the major indices. But NVIDIA recovering nicely, up 5% here. NVIDIA having a couple of nice days. Yesterday, finishing higher by 4%. Today, right now, up 5.2% and trading near session highs. So it looks like investors really bought this dip on Monday. How much is it up since we opened lower on Monday? 25% off of Monday's open. And what a difference a week makes. Now, earnings in general, we talked a little bit about earnings. I thought this was interesting because the S&P 500 earnings this quarter actually were great, up 10.9% from a year ago. But so this was actually the biggest increase in over 2 years when it comes to earnings. But we know that there are always two numbers there. We have the top number, the earnings per share, Walmart coming out this week, but we could look at the previous quarter. So we have the earnings per share. We also have revenue, and revenue has actually been underperforming, and this is somewhat of a concern, especially when we consider forward guidance and how guidance has been cut for some of the bigger companies out there. So earnings season still retail coming up, and if we look at the calendar again and we look at the earnings calendar, we do have a couple of companies that are reporting. UBS tomorrow before markets open. We have Cisco after the bell tomorrow. Walmart on Thursday, Deere on Thursday. So a couple of bigger names. And then next week, even though we're getting out of the main part of earnings season, next week is a big week for retail, and we see it right here. Estee Lauder, Lowe's, TJX companies, just a bunch of retail, Macy's. So it's going to be an interesting week to next week as well. Let's see what's going on with positions that we're in, and let's take a look at the WTF strategy. No new signals for the WTF strategy today, and also no exits. We had a couple of nice exits yesterday, but no exits today. There are 9 open signals, at least for the settings that we scan for with the WTF strategy. These are the 4 that I'm currently in. I have Capital One. Capital One still positive here, but pulling back a little bit yesterday. Today, slightly higher. No exit yet, but up from the original entry. EMR a little bit today, and here's the original entry. I'm down from the original entry, but I did add to this one. So this one working out okay, waiting for an exit. Honeywell right now, the one that's underperforming. Honeywell down 3 days straight. No exit yet, and this was one I might add to, but holding off right now, nothing to do, and waiting for an exit. Mets working out nicely here. We're up again. We might get an exit for tomorrow's open. We'll just have to see. This one entry around 68.91, currently trading 70.33. So the 4 open ones, 2 of them are decent, and Met looks like a winner. Potentially an exit tomorrow. We'll have to wait and see. Honeywell pulling back just a little bit. Out of the 4, this is the one that's underperforming slightly, and we'll just have to see where it goes. So no new entry signals for me, and these 4 positions I am currently in. A couple of positions that I did not take. Citigroup, this one's up after the original entry. Morgan Stanley up after the original entry. Pfizer up now after today's rally. Pfizer up after the original entry. USB up after the entry, and Wells Fargo up after the entry signal. So all in all, WTF trades performing nicely, especially since last Monday when there was definitely some fear, and that's what the win the fear strategy is all about. Moving on to some wheel trades, and this is where I am in BP. I sold the 34.50, got assigned, and I am waiting to sell calls with oil and gas down a little bit today. No call selling for me. We'll see what happens tomorrow. See if there's an opportunity to sell calls at that 34.50 strike. CSIQ, rough day yesterday, but bouncing right back. Nothing to do with this one right now. Halliburton, another one that I am in, and I've collected some real nice premium on this one on the put side and the call side, but right now waiting to sell calls. And just like BP with oil and gas being down a little bit, nothing to do today. Coles yesterday having a rough day, rallying a bit today. This is one that Marcus is in, and Marcus also in Merck. I did not trade this one either, but we are both in UPS. UPS, little bit of an update, not getting too excited here, but looks like trying to figure out what to do with that 125 level. And we do have a next dividend date coming on Monday, getting paid $1.63 for holding this one. So UPS rewarding shareholders nicely with that nice dividend, although UPS, we'd like you to move higher. So here's that arrow. Let's get back up here. All right. With that said, I thought something that was interesting. And this is where back in 1979, on this day, it was a little pop up that I saw from the Wall Street Journal. Back on this day in 1979, Business Week proclaimed the death of equities. They said that only the elderly who have not understood the changes in the nation's financial markets or who are unable to adjust to them are sticking with stocks. Well, they couldn't have gotten it more wrong. This was that Business Week cover back in 1979, the death of equities. We know that's not the case, but I'm curious, what is something that you've gotten so wrong when it comes to investments or the market? This made me think of one thing that I totally got wrong, and I like to think that many times I can accept new technology and that I have a good feel for what will work and what investors and just the consumers in general will get excited about. But I have to fess up, and this is where I totally missed the whole concept of the camera phone. I remember the first time I saw a camera built into a cell phone, I was thinking, this is the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen. Who wants a camera in their phone? Well, we could say that that was a missed opportunity because it absolutely, took off, and we have apps and so much industry centering around just this whole thing of snapping pictures and sharing them with people. But yeah, I missed that one. Business Week, you probably missed the success of the equity market in general because it has only gone higher since 1979. But post in the comments, what's something that you missed? I'm just curious. Right later on, you're just shaking your head and going, "Okay, I got that wrong." With that said, dad joke for you. You know that this is the time where we embarrass ourselves, and we might make you laugh with a joke to leave you with. And here it is a trader joke, kind of. What did the trader name his? Or sorry, let's start that again. Why did the trader name his dog Rolex? Because he wanted a watchdog. All right. With that said, have a great rest of your day. We'll see you back here tomorrow. Markets higher doing their thing, and we'll see the reaction to that all important CPI data an hour before U.S. markets open. You don't want to miss the coffee with Mark, maybe Marcus tomorrow. Until then, happy trading, everybody.